Okay, Dr. Mindy here, and I'm coming live to you guys on Thursdays. So be sure as I'm going to go through autophagy with you today. I'm going to go through how women stimulate autophagy a little different than men. So sit tight. There's going to be some new information here for you. But if you have questions as I go through this, please put them in the comment section, and we'll make sure that we get them for you. Let me start off, or I get them answered for you. Let me start off by telling you that this morning I had a really cool experience of interviewing Naomi Whittel. So if you're not familiar with Naomi Whittel, she wrote a book called Glow 15. And what I love about her is she really has taken the idea of autophagy and researched it to a massive degree. Like, she didn't just a little bit understand it, like she massively researched it. And those of you in my Resetter tribe who heard the interview this morning, she rambled off like 15, 20 different researchers on autophagy. It was really impressive. I will put that interview here on my YouTube channel when we get it ready to go for you guys. But this was my biggest takeaway in talking to her. And I asked her early on in the conversation, I said, tell me of all the research that you've done on autophagy, all the ways we know to stimulate autophagy, what is the absolute best way to stimulate autophagy? What can we personally do on a day-to-day basis? And it really shocked me what she said. Like, I thought we would jump into fasting right away. Like, I thought she would say, oh, well, we know 17, 16 hours of fasting. She didn't say that. She said that the absolute best way to stimulate autophagy is sleep. And she talked about 4 different cycles of sleep that you need to go through in order to get into a state of autophagy. Now, we had a limited time period. We didn't get to dive into what those 4 different ways of cycling, what different phases you need to get into in sleep in order to stimulate autophagy. So stay tuned. I will be doing a video for you guys on that. So stay tuned. And if you subscribe to my channel, you'll make sure that you get it. But how cool was that it was like sleep. Sleep is the #1 thing. So, and I think this is really important, is that we can get really fancy with all the different terminology and all the different tricks that we can do with keto and fasting. But bottom line is we've got to sleep. We've got to get some deep sleep. I know those of you that have been in my Resetter group, I've talked a lot about my Aura Ring and how helpful that has been for me to monitor my own sleep. So that I can see how much sleep I'm getting every night. I can see what type of sleep I'm getting every night. So I really recommend you check out Aura Ring. I think it's an awesome product. And I've also been really conscious to put myself to sleep earlier and really make sleep a priority. So before I launch into some of the other things she said on autophagy, I just really want to point out to you that something as basic as sleep needs to be addressed, and make sure you're getting good sleep. I have done some videos on how to get a good night's sleep, so you can go watch those and dive into my checklists on what I do with patients to help them sleep better. So that was the first thing she said. Okay, second surprising thing that she said was when we dove into the time of autophagy. And I know you guys ask me this all the time, and we put it in our fasting benefits chart last week when I came live to you guys. I put it in there. But when I asked her about the time of how long do you need to fast in order to stimulate autophagy, her response was 15, 16 hours. Intermittent fasting is a really wonderful way to stimulate autophagy. And then she went on to talk about some researchers that she has spoken with that are now saying that it starts somewhere, autophagy starts somewhere between this 15, 16 hours of fasting, and it really goes till about the 4-day mark. So if you got our fasting benefits sheet, you know that I peaked it at 3 days was about where I peaked it, and that's pretty consistent. She's saying 3-4 days is where it will peak, and that we don't know much beyond that. So super cool, right? Because I know especially here on this channel, we have a tendency to think, oh, the more I fast, the better it is. And what I love about autophagy is that there are some simple ways like sleep, like fasting for 15 hours on a daily basis that really will impact your health in such a positive way. So don't lose sight of the subtleties. Don't lose sight that sometimes this path to better health may look easy. It might not be as hard, and you might not have to suffer through a 3-day water fast to be able to get some of the, you don't have to suffer always through a 3-day water fast to get some of the benefits of autophagy, okay? So 15 hours to about 4 days is her recommendation for autophagy benefits. Sleep is one of her recommendations. Then she went into what I love about her is that she dove into herbs and different things that we know that stimulate autophagy. We talked a lot about chocolate. How cool is that? And I was laughing because I was like, oh gosh, here we go. I know you guys are gonna ask this, my resetters are gonna ask this, let's do a chocolate fast. Maybe for fast training week, we'll do let's break our fast with chocolate. So that could be kind of fun. I asked her, I'm like, should we break a fast with chocolate? And she laughed and was like, I'm not sure the science is there on that, but cacao is very medicinal and it can help our body go into a state of autophagy as well. This doesn't mean you go rush out and eat a Hershey's chocolate bar, but it does mean that with organic chocolate, where good high quality chocolate that is low in sugar, that there is a benefit to us. And when we use it appropriately, it can stimulate autophagy. She also is a fan of bergamot tea. So bergamot tea basically is Earl Grey. So if you guys have ever been to a restaurant and they give you the container of tea, that's Earl Grey. And so she has a really cool product called Autophagy that we love. And green tea, she recommended, will also help you get into a state of autophagy on a regular basis. So those are some simple things that you guys can implement. Go watch the videos I did on autophagy as far as other ways like red light therapy, HIIT training. I did a whole video on things outside of fasting that you can do to stimulate autophagy. But I really wanted to point out the sleep to you so you understand that this is more than fasting. This is a lifestyle. And if you apply the lifestyle, then you can really maximize this incredible self-detoxing capability that our cells have. Now, the other thing I want to point out, and this question gets asked a lot, is should you stay in autophagy all the time? And her answer, and I would agree with her, is absolutely no. That you are not meant, the name of the game is not to stay in autophagy all the time. Remember, there's a balance between cell detox and cell growth. It's called autophagy is the detox, and growth is called mTOR. So we want to be balancing back and forth between those two in order to keep our cells healthy. The goal is not to always be in a state of autophagy. So please, again, I've done videos on that, but know that's another key principle. Okay? Now, before I open it up for questions, I want to dive into something that she said that really expanded my vision for women at a deeper level. So when you go and you look at research studies in general, I just want to kind of bring this to your attention that there are mouse studies and there are human studies. And actually, Dr. Osumi, who won the Nobel Prize for autophagy, did it on yeast. So his study wasn't even in an animal, it was on yeast. So, but in the mouse study, in the yeast study, we can make assumptions as to, we go, okay, well, we see what is happening there, so we would assume that it would also happen in the human body. But the best thing for us to do is look at human studies. So if you go back and you look at the video that I did on is fasting safe, why I love that research study is it was done on 1,400 humans. Okay. Now I asked her, what is troubling women the most with their health right now? Like what do we need to put our focus on to improve women's health? And her response to me was science. We need more studies on what happens to a woman at different points of her cycle. And that we don't have enough studies on fasting at different times of your cycle. We don't have enough studies on ketosis in different times of your cycle. We don't have enough human studies on women premenopausal and postmenopausal. And so she's really looking to gather those studies, which I think is amazing. So remember, women, that we have a unique needs based on our cycle, based on if we're postmenopausal, premenopausal. And that's what I'm trying to bring to you guys here. I'm trying to bring it to my resetter group. That's what my Women's Reset program is about, is helping women identify how to use keto, how to use fasting, how to use the autophagy benefits according to where you are in your time of life and where you are in your cycle. If we can master this, if we can really dive into this understanding for each one of us on an individual level, we're going to change women's health at such a high level. So I was really excited to have that conversation with her as well. Like I know women that are watching right now, you know, you guys, hopefully you've heard me say this before, that if you do have a cycle, you are meant to eat differently at different times in your cycle. That's what I'm trying to teach in my academy and my Women's Reset, is like, how do you know when you should fast and when you shouldn't fast? And what I love is she's confirming that. She's saying, yeah, we need to have better understanding of that. So, okay, I digress. But really cool. Watch the video when it's on Resetter TV. It'll come on YouTube. Be sure you watch the whole thing through. Follow me on Instagram. We'll be taking the highlights from that and putting it on my IGTV. And if you want to watch it right now, join me in my Resetters. Just put Resetters in the comments and you can watch the full episode in there right now. So with that, let me open it up for questions. And one more thing before I open up for questions. The Women's Summit. So there's a Women's Summit coming out next week. We have really cool, first of its kind. There was 6 of us that did the interviewing. We interviewed over 50 women on women's issues. So it was done by women for women on women's topics. That kind of summit's never been done before. I will put the link in here so you guys can watch it for free next week. So make sure you go and check on that link, because there is some brilliant minds on here, like brilliant. And if you want to change your health, you got to dive into this information. They brought together some of the most incredible women. So excited to share that with you guys. So, okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Okay. If we have any.
We have a few.
Okay.
Kimberly wants to know, is intermittent fasting cumulative? So if you restart autophagy each time, is it like restarting?
Yeah, actually, that's actually a really good question. So Kimberly wants to know, is it cumulative? So let's look at it as an on-off switch. So, and she did a really good job explaining autophagy, how it's a way where the body starts to get rid of the old, so that the good stuff in there can maximize. So if you have a cell and all of a sudden you go into, do intermittent fasting and you stimulate autophagy, then you've got 72 trillion cells. We don't know which cells you're turning autophagy on and which one you're turning off autophagy, but your body is initiating that process. Now, the longer you stay in autophagy, the more deeper experience you're going to get. So if you stayed, you continued on and you did a 4-day fast, you will get a little deeper autophagy, or you'll keep that process going. The process continues. If you're doing intermittent fasting and you stimulate the process for an hour, couple hours, and then you eat, the minute you eat, you now have stopped the process. So the process it's not detoxing. So then the next day you get up and you're like, well, let me stimulate that again. It would be a little bit like if you had a messy house and you went in and you're like, I'm gonna clean my house today, and you started to clean one room, you got that room really clean, and then a friend calls and says, hey, come, let's go out and do something fun, and you ignore the other rooms, and then you go out and do something fun, and then you come back the next day, you pick up where you left off, and you start to clean the other rooms. That's the way I would look at autophagy on a day-to-day basis. And as you implement more of these tools, is that you don't undo what you did, but you maybe didn't do as thorough of a job. So it'll just pick up and start to clean what else needs to be cleaned on the sequential days. So cumulative, I don't know, but picking up where it left off, yes, definitely.
Question about chocolate, because you brought it
Oh,
up.
chocolate, yeah.
Somebody just made
Awesome.
Thomas made a note that chocolate is probably not good, but cacao butter.
Cacao.
So, it depends on the sugar content.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
there's a chocolate, and maybe I need to do a video on this. There's a lot of different versions of chocolate, right? So she actually quoted some research done by the Mars company. Okay, so the Mars bar, which is probably horrible chocolate, toxic, sugar-filled chocolate. But the research was originally done by the Mars company on its benefits on autophagy years ago. So this doesn't mean we all go rushing out and eat chocolate, but there are the bittersweet chocolates, like when you go over like 70, 80%, like the dark chocolates with no sugar, maybe you do some stevia and erythritol in the chocolate, and then you've got the cacao mixed with that. Now you're looking at more of a health food. Yes, if you go even one step further and you go to cacao butter, also you're going to get the benefits of chocolate without the negative. But if you go rushing out and have even an organic chocolate bar, you'll get the benefits, but you're going to get the negative too. So we want to minimize the negative and maximize the benefits, and cacao butter would be a good way to do that. So.
Okay. Some people want to know if the dawn effect is breaking their fast and ending autophagy.
Okay, great. I love that. I love how you.
Susan is.
Okay, before I answer that question about the dawn effect, one of the tools or one of the things that I'm trying to do here on this channel is teach you guys how to think. So when you ask me a really brilliant question like that, I'm like, awesome, like you're really thinking this through. So I love that. Okay, let's talk about the dawn effect. So the dawn effect, let's go into your body for a moment. You go to sleep, your blood sugar's low, and all of a sudden the body registers that the blood sugar's low and you're asleep, and it needs sugar to keep the brain functioning normal. It's got its ketones, but it also needs some sugar. So it's going to go searching for where it stored sugar, and it's going to empty it, dump it out, and you wake up in the morning, you check your blood sugar, and you're like, oh my gosh, why is my blood sugar so high? I've been doing keto so well. And you get frustrated because that blood sugar number is high. So that happens so often. It's called the dawn effect. My intuitive sense, I don't have research on this and I will go look it up, but my logical and intuitive sense would say that is not breaking the autophagy state, because it's all an inherent process of your body. So if now, the longer you do fasting, the longer you do this kind of work, the dawn effect should happen less and less because you're not storing as much. So I don't think it would break you out of autophagy. I don't think it would delay autophagy. But if you wanted to make sure you don't have a lot of stored sugar, you probably would be maximizing autophagy. One of the things that I talked to Naomi about was, we really need a measurement for autophagy. Wouldn't that be great? And she's all into creating and inventing. I was like, measure that. And she laughed and was like, yeah, we're working on it. Or somebody's working on it. She said, I promise you it will be coming soon. So wouldn't that be cool if you could get up and do your blood sugar and your ketones and do some form of autophagy to see where you're at? That would be awesome. But logically, I don't think the dawn effect is going to kill autophagy. And having said that, I think if we can not store as much sugar, that's going to be beneficial so that you can maximize autophagy, you can maximize stem cells. The other thing I will say on that is it's been fun because I'm a part of a group of 50 doctors that all live like this, what I'm teaching you. We all teach or live it day to day. And one of the things we're seeing when we go in these fasting periods more regularly is that we are kicking into deeper ketosis quicker, that we're getting results that appear to be stem cells being released quicker. So I do think that as you do this more and more, the body goes, oh, we're not eating. Okay, let's go to autophagy. Okay, we're still not eating. let's make sure we get some ketones. Okay, we're still not eating. Let's produce some stem cells. So it's like you start to train your body to tap into these incredible inherent the systems. You're training it to do that more regularly. So.
Okay. A question about the best way to do a metal detox, and then there's a follow-up question asking about activated charcoal during a fast.
Ooh, okay. Best way to do a heavy metal detox. I'm going to give you the short answer, and I have done some videos on that. When you go to detox heavy metals, you need to always open up your detox pathways first. Bottom line. If there's one piece of advice I could give you after putting thousands of people through a heavy metal detox, people who do the worst with heavy metal detoxing are the ones who haven't opened up the pathways. So when we coach people through it, we put them in what we call a prep phase, where we open everything up. You can open it up with coffee enemas, saunas, things like that will open those pathways up. Once you have opened the pathways up, then you really want to rely on binders. And chelation therapy, one of the things I don't like about it is because they haven't opened up the pathways and they're not putting binders in there. And binders are important because, like, the binder we use is a zeolite, and it magnetizes metals and it hooks onto those and gets them out of your system. So if you don't, it's not enough just to release it from the cell. You need to actually be able to have something that cages those metals up and gets them out of the system. And then probably the third most important part of heavy metal detoxing is making sure you're doing on-off cycles. So it's just like autophagy and fasting. You were not meant to just detox metals. I have a patient that was told that she should take DMSA every single day for 6 months and her metal problem would be gone. And I'm so grateful she didn't do that, because she would have been crazy. And detoxing heavy metals improperly can make you really have some adverse effects. So my biggest 3 pieces of advice are: open the pathways up, make sure you're using binders, and make sure you're doing on-off cycles. Now, we do that in our group detox. If you want more information on that, you can just put group detox and we'll send it to you. But if you guys are doing it on your own or you're doing it with another doctor, those are 3 key principles. Activated charcoal is great when you're fasting. Whenever you fast or you detox, you always want to make sure your bowels are moving. Activated charcoal is really good for binding to toxins and getting them out your stools. So the product we like is Bind. It just seems to work the best. It has magnesium in it too, so it really relaxes the intestines. But yeah, I'm a fan of activated charcoal for when you fast. I think it's a good one.
Okay. So we only have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Some people are saying I'm not reading them right.
Okay.
I'm trying to summarize if I see the same thing on a few questions.
Okay.
So that way we can cover a broad range.
Okay, go for it.
The questions about, you answered that. Fluids during a fast. What fluids? What breaks a fast?
So fluids during a fast, water is the best. Water with sea salt is good to keep your mineral balance intact. I think those are probably the best fluids during a fast, especially the longer fasts. Now the question comes up, what about teas? What about sparkling water? Those are good. I mean, you can use them. When I do a 3-day water fast, I really like to honor the intelligence of my body and do as little as possible and just let that intelligence do its job. So I don't take supplements. I just drink water. Sometimes I'll do dry fasting. Sometimes I'll do sea salt water. That is the best way to go about it. But if that's difficult, then, lemon waters, sparkling waters, teas would be the next level. Once you start to, like, we've had questions about Diet Coke while you're fasting. No, it's toxic. Please don't ever do Diet Coke. And then we've had questions about bone broth. It'll pull you out of a fasted state. So you can with liquids, you can go down rabbit holes that will minimize the effects of your fasting. But those are the two that I like.
Okay, and then Thomas has just a last question about exercise on a prolonged fast. Can you do Can you do heavy cardio? Do you want to talk about?
Okay, so Thomas wants to know about exercise on a prolonged fast. So on a 3 days or longer, I do not recommend exercise. And let me tell you why. And we're seeing this in the academy with some of the people who are trying to exercise while fasting. It's too stressful on your body. Even if you're a major, like, super duper athlete, when you fast, it's a time to slow down. It's a time to go inner. It's not a time to push. If I'm doing a 24-hour fast, if I'm doing an intermittent fast, if I'm doing fast mimicking, autophagy fasting, exercise all you want. Exercising in a fasted state is awesome, as long as you're not on the 3rd day of a water fast or the 4th day or 5th day or 21 days of water fasting. That's not the time to be exercising. So past 3 days, I would really warn you to not. So I think you can do more damage than good.
Okay.
Okay. So thanks, guys. I appreciate your questions. We try to answer them as effectively as we can. And every Thursday, I'm coming here to you. So if you have questions that you want me to address next Thursday, put them in there. If you have a video you want me to do, like it sounds like I need to do a video on chocolate, I'll have fun researching that one and doing some taste tests for you. And I'll bring you some of my favorite chocolates that we have researched stimulate autophagy. So, and if you want to join me in the Women's Reset, just put Women's Reset, and I'd love to guide you through our 15-day metabolic experience. So, okay, as always, I hope that helps.